Ooga chaka, ooga, ooga, ooga chaka, ooga, ooga, ooga. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Smokin' Sous Vide. Today we're going to smoke up a pork shoulder. We're going to do two of them, and I'll show you how we're going to partially smoke them, and then we're going to add them or let them cool, and then sous vide them later so that they become a nice, easy pork roast later on. So it's a pork shoulder. You can bring this up to pulled pork for one of them, and you can leave it as a nice tender pork roast for the other. And I'll tell you how to do both of those. All right, stay tuned. Okay, so before we put the pork roasts on, I got my smoker up to temperature. It's just coming down in temperature from the initial flame. So, got that. We're going to take some applewood chunks. They're soaked in water. So we're going to smoke. We're going to set those around the edge here. Just to give it that nice applewood smoke into the meat. So there we go, that's all we need. We'll just let those smolder, and I'm going to let those stabilize for a bit before I put the meat on. So that's coming down in temperature, so I'll expect it to stabilize around 250 or so. But we'll let that stabilize, and then we'll put the meat on. Okay, just been a few more minutes. You know, we've got a lot of stuff to put in here, so let's just get this going. It's below 300 degrees now, which is kind of where my target is. So let's get this thing going here. So the chunks are starting to just dry out and smolder a bit. We're going to put our smoking stone into this. So there's our smoking stone. That gives it the indirect heat. Then we take our grate, we set that in there, and the middle part of the grate. Okay, so now we have an indirect smoker grill. We take the tray with the roasts on a rack. We're going to set those right in the middle of the smoker there. So it's going to catch all the drippings, not going to flare up, and that's going to catch that smoke and just brown those up real nice. We're not going to fully cook them because we want to sous vide them later. All right, so we'll latch that down. I'll put a temperature probe in there later, but we want to leave it for about 3 hours at about 235 in that range. So between 200 and 250. Okay, so we'll come back in a while. We'll keep an eye on it. But when it's been in there for about 3 hours at that temperature, we're going to pull it in and let it cool. Alrighty, so one of the things about this Acorn smoker is they say that the grill thermometer is not that accurate. So it pays to get one of these dual thermometers. And I'll show you what I did. I put one in the smallest part of the meat, and I put one just on the grill, clipped to the pad, to show what the temperature at the meat is going to be. So those are metal cladding, so they're not going to melt or stick anywhere. But there's our nice smoke that's coming off of those applewood chunks. You see that? So we're just going to adjust that heat. It's at 1.5 right now, and it seems to be stabilizing pretty good, but I just opened the lid so that I pulled it down a bit. But we're going to monitor that from inside using this at the meat temperature, and then it'll fluctuate to the internal barbecue temperature. All right, so we'll monitor that, keep that around 235, 250, and we'll get a good smoke onto those. Okay, all right, so it's been just about an hour and a half now. Just gonna open this up to show you what those look like. You're getting a nice little char on them, and they're crisping up nicely, look beautiful, and we're just gonna keep that heat in there, and we'll wash that back up. Yeah, we're sitting around 240 degrees with this smoker. Just got it just over a 1 on that one, just over about a 1.5 on the bottom. So yeah, it's smoking up real nice. So we're just going to keep that going and see what happens. And it'll take about 3 hours for it to get up to around where I want it. Okay, so it's been a couple hours now that the pork shoulders have been on. So the temperature's been around 2 to 250. So it's been relatively stable. So you can see how they're getting nicely crusted up. Nice char on them, nice smoke, right? So that's that applewood. And it's keeping them nice and smoky, and it's going to taste so good. All right, so that's been 2 hours. I got that about 1.5, and this down about 2.5. So it's kind of constantly slight adjustments, but always slight, and then you have to wait. So we'll see how that turns out in another hour. Okay, so now it's been 2.5 hours. You'll see that the meat is actually at 140 degrees. The smoker is around 205, but if you look at this, it's around 235. So I mean, it's somewhere in the range. It kind of bounces around. But let's just take a look at this meat now, because I think we're going to pull it in. Oh yeah, so we got a nice little char on that. Very nice smoked. Good. So you can see how lovely that looks. I'm going to pull that in, and we're going to let that cool before we vacuum bag it. And then I'll show you later in the week how to sous vide that up and make a lovely supper. Okay. All right, so these have all been smoked. I'm ready to put them in a sous vide bag and then freeze them. So they were both brought up to about 140 degrees. But just to give you a little taste of this, yeah, you can cut this off. This is the outside. There you can see the nice smoke ring. You taste that. Oh my gosh. Tastes like lovely bacon. It's not cured. So it's not a ham, but has a lovely applewood smoke to it. If we make this into a pork roast or a pulled pork, it's just going to be delicious. So we're going to put these in a freezer bag and vacuum seal them. So do that one. Take this one. Okay. That's all done. We're going to get rid of the pan now. Okay. Just going to wipe up the bag area. Got some meat on it. Okay. We'll seal these up. Juice is going to go. We're going to hit the seal before it gets up to the top. So a little bit got through. There. So that's nicely sealed. This one, do the same thing. Before we get too much air in there. Liquid up to the top. The other one doesn't have quite a perfect seal, so I'm just going to give that another seal. Right up the top area there. All right, there we go. That's sealed right across. Good vacuum seal. We're going to freeze these. So by freezing them, you can pull these out, sous vide them for about 18 hours. And when you come home from work, you've got a lovely meal. It doesn't matter if you come home from work at 5 or 4 or 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night. Time's not that critical. But the temperature you set these at, if you want it as a pork roast, about 153 gives you a lovely tender pork roast. And about 155 gives you a lovely pulled pork. So I'll show you both of those as we go into the next phase in that. But this is the initial step. We're going to freeze these and have them ready for a nice, easy meal later on in the week when we're working. Okay, talk to you later. Okay, so getting back to the nice pork shoulder that we smoked up, we froze. So we smoked this to about 140 degrees just to give it a nice smoke. The applewood smoke, it tasted really good. We froze it. So a few days later, weeks later, doesn't matter. This is our sous vide. So we're going to set this at 153 degrees. It's a water bath. So you cook in a vacuum bag and you put the meat in there. We're going to put it in at 153 degrees for about 18 hours. What that will give us is a lovely pork roast that will be very tender, and you can just, it'll just be amazing how much flavor and how tender the meat is. So I did mention earlier that I said 155 for pulled pork. It was 165. But so it depends on what temperature you put this in, how it comes out. 165 is pulled pork. 153 is a nice tender pork roast. So we're just going to take that. This is right out of the freezer. We're going to put this in the water bath. We're going to close that lid, and we're going to cook that at 153 degrees for about 18 to 22 hours. Doesn't matter how long you cook it in there. I wouldn't cook it more than 24 hours, but over 18 hours. So again, you come home from work, this thing's going to be done whenever you get home, not at a specific time, and it will not be overcooked in the slightest. So I'll show you what that's like tomorrow when we take that out and carve it up. All right, see you then. Okay, so we're back. The pork shoulder has been sitting in the sous vide now overnight and through the day. It's now 4:30 in the afternoon. So we're going to take this out. Now on a hotter sous vide, I'm going to pause that. I want to support the bottom of the bag because, you know, with a weighty roast, it could actually break open a bit. I've had that happen once. So you pull that out, put that on a pan, and then cut that open. And get that out of there. We're going to drain the juice off. We don't want that juice. So just going to drain all that off. Pull that out of the bag. Now, as you can see, this thing is nice and hot still. It's you know, it's got that brown from the smoker on it still. So then, you know, we're gonna look at where the grain is and all that. We're just gonna slice this like a nice pork roast. So if you look, cut that. You can see how tender that is. You can see the smoke rings. You can see how nicely colored it is. And we're gonna do some nice thick slices of that just for the table and that. Everybody gets one nice thick steak of this pork shoulder. So you can see how that just carves up so very nice. But let's just try a piece from the outside here. Oh, so tender. Oh yeah, that meat's just tender. It's so moist. You can just see how moist that is and tender. Let's just give that a try. That's one of the best pork roasts I've ever had. That applewood flavor still comes through, the smoke comes through. This is going to be an amazing dinner. And like I said, all I did was just cook in the water bath today, the sous vide bath, since last night. And it just makes for an amazing dinner when you get home. Do your trimmings and have dinner. Right? Well, hope you enjoyed this. I hope you have great success with this too, and I'll see you on the next episode of Smokin' Sous Vide.